I know, right? I would have never. Melanie, this is Dan Coons. He's on our team here. You want to sit somewhere else over there, Dan? Or you can sit right here.
Okay. Would you prefer if I wear a mask?
I was just going to ask you, do you want...
I don't like to wear them. They make me feel sick.
Okay.
So,
if you don't mind, I'm not COVID positive, so...
I'm not anything. I'm
anything?
I'm a health nut, so yeah, I love coffee. Just before we start, I've had so much experience talking to people like you. I have great respect. I will have great respect for the police. They're the ones that help me most with all this.
Thank you.
And so, make sure you tell me you're recording you. Because, you know, some...
It's right up there. Yeah. Yep.
So, okay, just then make sure you tell me because, you know, people will make sure that I know that and that you know that and you know what I mean.
Yep.
I've been through the grill.
I've
been through the grill, so...
This is going to be very informal.
Okay.
And most of it is to, like, I know you've been interviewed 100 times by all different types of people.
Just a few.
Just a few. So
Not more than one, I'm sure.
So I haven't listened to the interviews you've done with Ryan Pillar or with Detective Moffat. I think was there at the same time, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Was he like a Gilbert police or was he a Chandler?
He was the
police?
Chandler police. So he was the case officer in this case, and
That's
he
what I
recently
think.
was promoted. So
Yeah.
lucky
Bless
us.
his heart.
Lucky us.
I'm sorry that you have to get involved because I know that it's a lot of work.
It is. It is.
We've been involved from day one.
Yeah.
Well, of course you have. Yeah, I'm so sorry. And I've been involved too, so.
Yes.
Our whole lives have changed. Mine's life changed a
bet.
little bit differently than yours.
I bet. I mean, did you go around and have to answer questions every day?
No.
Okay, good.
No, people, a lot of people don't know and recognize me.
Okay, good.
You know, because people, I mean, you think about how many people are on the planet and how many people are in Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
People in Idaho recognize me more when I was up there.
I bet.
Yeah.
How long were you up there?
How long did I end up staying? I think
Because you were planning for 2 weeks, right?
I was gone for 2 weeks. I left earlier. I think a week.
Okay.
Maybe, somewhere around a week.
Okay.
But I got to go to Mesa Falls while I was there. And
Oh, very nice.
yeah, it was something else, man.
Yeah, I was on the standby list to go up there, but then
Wow.
I guess they waived my appearance. So.
Well, be glad.
I know, right?
It's nothing like getting on the seat and the
Yeah.
whole world's watching you on video.
Well, that's got to be. It is. It is a little. It's a little stressful, but I always tell people, I'm like, you're testifying to the truth. You know,
Oh, exactly.
You're testifying to the truth,
Exactly.
so go ahead and ask whatever questions you want.
Well, that's what I was like. I was like, well, if you want me to tell the truth, here it comes, and I'm not going to back away.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to let it make me crumble or fall because I'm telling the truth. And
Yes.
so you have to be confident with that.
Absolutely.
And if you're okay with the world hearing your truth, then you just got to spill beans.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just have, mostly what I have, and Dan's got some other stuff. Dan kind of went on some different tangents with some, most of the Gilbert reports and body-worn camera, that type of thing. Most of what I'm trying to do is come up with a timeline or a better understanding of timeline and hoping that you can answer some of these questions.
Okay.
So the best of my knowledge is October of 2018. Is that correct?
That's
when
when I
Lori
met her.
and when you and Lori met?
That's right.
Okay. Is that also when Lori and Chad met?
They met weeks after it. So I met her by herself first.
Okay.
And then I had known him already, but not super involved in knowing him, if that makes sense. Just kind of a casual knowledge of him. And anyway.
Okay. So you met, do you remember the date or anything?
Which, for what?
When you met Lori?
It was like on the 3rd or 4th. I was teaching. Where did I first go? I was teaching at an event at a church in Mesa.
Okay.
And so I think it was the first week. It was like a Tuesday or Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might have that on my phone.
And you guys, my understanding is through my investigation is you met through Jason Mao.
He's the one that met her first
At
at
the
the temple, and then he told her
Hey, you might like this girl.
that okay. Yep, it's the 4th.
4th of October?
4th. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. Well, I talked to her on the phone right before then, so
Okay.
but physically we met. I keep forgetting that part, but we physically met. That's what I remember the most, is when we physically met. And so he just said like-minded people, And then she called me and said, oh, I said, well, I'm going to teach if you want to meet me. And anyway, we met at the church, and so.
And where was that at, you remember?
McKellips and
Mason.
Stately. I have it written down, that's how I remember now.
I love it. Well,
Yeah, and I spoke to a stake there about preparedness,
Okay.
self-reliant stuff.
very good.
Yeah.
So October, so a couple weeks later, how did Lori meet Chad?
So
Was that at another event?
Yeah, so that was at, let me see if this is the day. 19, yeah, was it the 20th? I probably said to somebody, but I don't know, 26, let's see if that's it. Yep, okay, the weekend of the 26th.
And the 26th
October.
of October.
So is that what, 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later, so we go to the event and Preparing People in St. George, Utah. And we go up, there's 6 of us in the car, five of us, I remember it was like us, 3 in the back, 2 in the front.
Okay.
And we drove up there as some friends, and they didn't know Lori that well, but anyway, they were friends of mine.
Okay.
And I didn't know all of them, there was one girl I didn't know very well, but anyway, we just thought we'd take a trip up there. And so as we got there, she quickly got introduced. I don't know if I introduced her or they walked up to each other. I can't even remember at this point.
Okay.
But I just know that she knew who he was because of his books.
And that was a Preparing a People event?
That was a Preparing People event, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they just started chatting and
Okay.
everything you heard is.
Was a speech given to by Chad at that event?
He was one of the speakers.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
What other speakers were there?
Jason was there,
Okay.
and Hector.
Audio for you.
Okay.
And just let me know if this sounds familiar to you.
Okay.
And whether or not you were there.
Well, they all sound the same a
Okay,
little
yeah.
bit, so if hopefully it goes that weekend, I'd say yes.
For that wonderful message. I had met with Bill yesterday. Just
Oh.
wanted to follow up some of his podcasts.
Okay, so that's Chad.
Amazing man.
So that was in November, because he talked about Thor, and Thor wasn't at the St. George. That was here in Mesa.
That was Mesa in November?
Yeah, because that was the only one Thor spoke at.
Do you know what day that was?
Yep. Thankfully, these things hold on to information. So that's October, November, what's the 16th? So, yeah, okay, so it was the weekend of the 16th of November, 2018.
And that was in Mesa?
Yep. that was
Another
it.
Preparing a People?
Yep, same company.
Was that at one of the podcasts you were doing or at a different event?
This was not a podcast, this was an event.
Okay.
Totally different, yeah.
So just for my reference and for recording, what I just played for you would have been, I just labeled it Chad meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
that was
that
November
was the one I just listened to was the second time Chad and Lori met.
Okay.
That was our second time to physically see each other. That I know of, I mean, if they saw
That
each other.
you're
before
aware
they-
of. and
That
that's-
I'm aware of.
That's all we would be asking you to
Yeah,
tell us.
that I'm aware of. What they did on their personal all the time, I don't know.
All right, so let me go back to this. So I've got Melanie listed, your phone number obviously is the number that I've been calling you at, the
Mhm.
6340.
Yeah.
How long have you had that number? 1 year, 2 years, 5 years?
5, 6.
Okay,
5,
so it's
6
been a while.
years. Yeah.
Okay, so before you met Lori,
Oh, yeah.
you've had the number, okay. She has that number in one of her accounts as Melanie.
Yeah.
And in another account, she has it as Phoebe.
Yes.
Is
That doesn't
something that
surprise
you're
me.
aware of?
Well, doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
She had different names she'd like to call me because she got to the point, I think, where she just got more secretive with her life.
Okay.
You know, so.
So that was a name you were aware that she would
Yeah,
refer
she
to
would
as.
refer to as
Any
Phoebe.
reason why?
Yeah. So you know how Chad would tell her who her lives were?
Okay.
And so in one of her lives, She had a whole bunch of children, and one of those was Phoebe. And so she said that was me.
Okay.
Does that
So
make
you
sense?
happen to be one of her children in
Yeah.
a previous life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe that, just for the record. Okay. Just let me get that out there.
Yeah. All right, one more record, and I have two more actually. So here's another recording. Tell me if you recognize this one.
It's Lori.
I feel like
Oh, yeah.
I love Melanie.
So that was in my house,
Okay.
and there was friends there. So yeah, that's Lori speaking.
Do you know when this was?
Who the father wanted me to go to.
So it was shortly after I met her, and I usually have Friday classes.
Okay.
So I don't know exactly the date because I'd have to go research a lot of emails to figure out when I had that. But that was before she met Chad. I believe that, at least I believe that recording.
So would it be safe to say if they met in October, so I can just, it would be October of 2018?
I have recordings on my phone of that one, but she did a couple, so let me just check on.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Lori, Melanie. So I have 2 dates. It might have been October 19th. Wait, is that before? Yeah, that was before preparing people.
Yeah, that was 26.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna be helpful for me. It could have been. I have it written down as the 19th, and I also have the 12th. So anyway, I think it's the 12th or the 19th.
Okay, let me see if I can.
And you probably have both of those. I gave them to Elder. Officer.
Taylor, he'll be happy you called him Elder.
Sorry.
Let me see, I'm trying to find it.
Horrible things about me and turned it around to where the judges believed him instead of me. And he was constantly trying to get custody of my 3-year-old daughter. And
So you guys got all that, which is great.
rub it in my face, and I went through a lot of years of this kind of hard stuff, and I was going to murder him. I was going to kill him, like the scriptures say, like if I killed him, just to stop the pain and to stop him coming after me and to stop him coming after my children. And I just thought I couldn't take it anymore. And I would go through the scriptures and find all the things like, if he comes against you once, if he comes against you twice, if he comes against you 3 times, then you can kill him. It says it in the scriptures.
Wow, that's good. That's good stuff.
Does that, do you recognize the script? Were you there when this was said?
Yeah.
Okay, so you recall her saying that?
Oh yeah.
Now, she refers to the scriptures in saying that. Do you know what scripture she's...
I would think Doctrine and Covenants section 90, is it 98, where he talks about when Joseph Smith is talking about those parts where if people hurt you in the family, then you forgive them, and then you get to a point where after so many times, I think that's what she was referring to.
Let me see if she had something else here.
I
Here
can't
it is. There's my answer. I don't want to do anything that's wrong. I did not have a murderous heart. I just wanted to stop the bleeding and stop the pain. And so someone wise was speaking to me and said, you need to go to the temple. So I went and met one bishop, and I was like, I'm either going to turn my life to the temple or I'm going to commit murder. So do you want to give me a temple recommend?
Wow.
And I was perfectly honest, because at that point I had nothing to lose. You get to the bottom rung and I had nothing to lose. And he gave me my temple recommend. And I started going to the temple.
Okay. So that would have been, we're thinking October 19th of 2008.
I think that was that one.
Okay, so that was before, it was still, we're safe to say it's October.
Yep. Yep.
Do you know who her bishop would have been at that time?
So she was living in that first house I met her, which is the very large house. I know what it looks like. I do not know the name of her bishop. And they moved a lot, so whenever she's referring to that, probably was when she lived in Hawaii or Texas or who knows.
Oh, okay.
So it wouldn't have been a current one. Because she's talking about the past, because she had already been divorced, she divorced Joe and already was with Charles by this point. So we're talking years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
My next question to you, kind of help me out here. It looks like July 9th.
Okay.
So 2 days before Charles was killed. Do you remember being at Lori's house?
I don't remember the day, but I remember I was spending the night because I was divorcing my husband, and so I was, she was like, you should probably not stay at home all the time, that kind of talk.
Okay.
I said, well, sure, I'd be happy to spend the night, or whatever. And so I was at her house. I get up that morning, and she goes, you gotta leave. I'm like, why? She goes, Charles is coming down. He's gonna try to kill me. And I'm like, and she was like a storm all the time, and I was calm.
Sure.
I'm a very calm person. I was like, oh, well, why? What reason does he have? I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so she explained to me that her brother was flying into town,
Mm-hmm.
which, I know that I've heard, you meet a lot of people on the journey. So anyway, that he did come into town, Adam, and then Zach, her nephew, and her dad. They were all after her, so that'd been 4 people. And Brandon Boudreaux, right? So that'd been 5 people. Does that count right?
They were after her?
That's what she said. They were all after her. They were coming to get her. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, I have $3 million of insurance that Charles changed on the documentation because he was an insurance guy. Anyway, and she said they wanted the money for that. So they wanted to kill her to get the money because they were evil and they were dark and there were all these, things. They were all zombies by this point. So that was her reason. So anyway, I left and I got a call. I think it was 4 days later. It felt like it was to tell me what happened. Yeah.
Do you remember any of the text messages between you guys? Because I know there was one, and I'm trying to look for it now.
Yeah.
I'm just going off the top of my head. I know you said something like, "I'm here in front of your house."
Yeah, and I couldn't. She was, man. Sometimes when I go there, she didn't hear me, so I'd figure out where she was, go around the back.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I could have definitely said that. That sounds like something I would have texted.
Let me see if I can just find this.
And I don't know when that was. So I know I didn't see her until she called me, or I called her. I think she called me. I can't recall, but anyway, I came after she told me, like, 4 or 5 something days later. I came to visit her at the house that he was shot in.
Tell me about that. What happened then?
So when I went over there,
Mhm.
she first of all asked me about like the news, like if I'd watched the news, and so I said no, I don't watch the news. And so she told me, she said, well, he was coming, he was plotting, to kill me. And then she said, and I said, well, how did he die? And she says, well, he came into, so I got to remember details. It's been foggy, sorry.
Yeah.
So if I don't say as clear as I did last time, it's because I'm trying to forget all this.
Yeah, right.
It's hard for me to recall it all the time, honestly. But anyway, so she says, I remember her saying things like this. I'll just be all over the place, but these are the things I remember. I think JJ they were buckling him in the car, something like that. And his phone was like in the middle between the 2 car seats, she said.
Okay.
And I can't recall where he was at the time, but she said that she was out there with JJ in the car, and then she said she always referred to her certain spirit people that she talked to. So she says this one spirit person, I'm trying to remember how to pronounce it now, but anyways, out there. She said she told me to pick up the phone, to get the phone. So she said she grabbed Charles's phone, went into the house, and he freaked out on her. Was saying things like, you give me my phone back? And she said, and probably Alex said too, I don't know, between the 2 of them. But anyway, yeah, she said that he started, yelling at her, give me my phone back. Now he started getting enraged. I think it's what she told the police, the police department too. Tylee comes out with a bat and is saying, I don't know, they're fighting. She says that he's threatening her for her life, threatens to kill her, something like that. And they're fighting, then Alex and him get in a fight. And then he goes to his bedroom, felt a prompting, I think, if I remember correctly, to get his gun. And out of self-defense. I remember at one point, he said that Charles was on top of him, and it's like he had 1,000 demons in him. That's what he said. And then,
This is what Alex said?
yeah.
Okay.
And then, sorry, I'm going between what she said and he said, so I don't know if she said that. Anyway, sorry. And so, anyway, so Charles came, he tried to push Charles off him at one point, if I remember correctly, and said he was really strong, something like that. And then, I think that's when he got the gun, I'm not sure. But anyway, then he shot him. Yeah, something, so anyway, lots of arguing, lots of threatening.
Did you recall her saying that she got the phone from
So
the car?
she got the phone from the car, that's what she told me. The interesting thing, I said to her, I was like, so did you look on the phone? Like, is he, what did you find? And like, how did you know how to open it? And she's like, well, I asked my angels and they told me the code. It was like 1,000. And so I opened it up and I said, so was he really cheating on you? Like all the things you said, oh yeah, there were all these pictures of girls and all these things on it. So she was trying to verify her story about him cheating on her. And then, him being this bad person, she tried to make him to be. So she was trying to build that case. Now, I look back now, that's what she was trying to do. I didn't know that at the time.
And this would have been 4 days after when you came over to the house.
Mm-hmm.
When you went over there on the 9th, and I'm just going to say the 9th because it looks like your phone, that's when you said, hey, I'm here.
Okay.
And she made a comment that says, I'm out back on an important call.
Okay.
Do you remember maybe that text? Or did you go out back and see her? Was
Probably.
she frantic that night?
Oh,
Was
no,
she?
no. So I'm trying to remember, was it the evening?
Yes.
Was this before the death?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was the night you said. No, she wasn't frantic. Let me try to recall. Oh, sorry, it's
a
hard.
while
It's
ago.
hard.
I
It's
know,
hard
I
too.
know.
Sometimes it's just hard to, anyway. I remember, and I can't remember if it's this night. This is why, because I know I spent the night more than once. This
Okay.
is why I got to remember the night. I hope maybe I'm remembering this correctly. I remember she's just like, just so dark. I'm just so upset. Satan's really attacking me. I just have, she's talking about her like getting a headache or not feeling well to the point of really bad. And so she just talked about how bad she felt. And she was probably talking to Chad, is my guess. She was always talking to him on the phone. So.
Okay.
I didn't always ask her because she was just, and she'd go off in her own little land, and I kind of separate myself at times from her, so I didn't always pay attention. I didn't pay attention to a lot of stuff because she was kind of a little bit drama, and so she was like in a whirlwind, and I was kind of outside that whirlwind.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
That's the best way I can describe me and her, because she's got the whirlwind, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not a drama queen. I don't really get your energy, but okay, you know what I mean? So that's what I remember. Yeah.
Let me back up to January. So obviously it looks like from what we can tell is in January, around the January 30th,
Yeah.
was an argument between her and Charles.
Oh, is that when it
And then
was?
that's when she was going to leave.
Okay, that was January 30th.
January 30th. So it looks like on the 31st is that's when I think you might have went with her to Gilbert PD.
Okay.
Or January 30th.
Okay.
The 31st, they were at Gilbert.
You went
Yeah.
to Gilbert PD.
Yeah.
And that's when they told her about the mental health evaluation.
That's right.
And then she agreed to go.
That's right.
Go over there to
Yeah.
be seen on that.
Yeah.
From that point on, do you know where she went?
Now, let me back up just a minute because
Okay.
this is important.
Yeah.
When she was in there, that police station that day, and she was talking to whoever that officer was,
Okay.
she was telling him the things that I'm sure she thought were important, which was, he's cheating on me. This is a domestic, dispute. She said she knew how to handle the police, so she just knew that they would get involved at a certain point and wouldn't care about certain things,
Okay.
Anyway, I was listening. I probably have that conversation later, but anyway, she's talking to them and she's telling them all about him, committing adultery or whatever, cheating on her in California, something about some women, I don't know. So I said to her, he says to her, well, do you have proof that he's cheating on you? And she said, yeah. And so he didn't ask her to provide the information.
Yeah.
I later said to her, I was like, do you have that information? She's like, no.
Okay.
So I thought, okay. Yeah.
Why do you think she was doing that? I mean,
Which
if you
part?
had to guess, like
To the police?
accusing him of.
She was trying to, to me, because of this idea she had that Charles was this Ned Snyder, right?
Okay, yeah.
That she was going to do everything she could to paint a picture that he was bad, but nobody would probably believe that he was Ned Snyder. So
Okay.
my guess is she's trying to look like he's really a bad person. That's what I'm seeing, is like she's creating this monster to make him look like a monster, which he absolutely wasn't.
Okay.
And so she's trying to make it legitimate, I think, looking back. You know, she's trying to make it legitimate, look like he was just a bad person. So
Okay.
that she would have a reason to leave him or whatever she was going to do, which, holy cow, who knows what she would get into.
Right,
But
right.
anyway, does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to be as
So
accurate
back
as
to that Ned
possible.
Schneider. When was the first time you heard that, the Ned Schneider?
So it was in January sometime.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was on the phone with Chad.
Okay.
And I was in her house, and I remember even just like where she was when she told me, how you remember the spots? I remember she was like in her back door coming in now.
Okay.
She went out and talked to him probably outside, and I wasn't listening to that, but then she came back in and I knew she was talking to him, and so she was kind of going back and forth, and then she got off the phone and told me about him and told me what Chad said, which was he became this Ned Snyder person. That was in January before the 31st, because I know by then he
Okay.
already knew.
Yeah.
Right, which, amazing that she told him that. It's crazy. Anyway.
Any other names
Yeah.
that she referred to Charles by?
Yeah.
And what was
So
it?
the first one was Ned, and then the second was Garrett.
Okay.
Garrett, something like that.
Okay.
I believe the third one was Eblos, which Eblos was different because Eblos was supposed to be a combination of evil spirits. So
Okay.
it was just like a dark spirits together. You know, that third host
Sure.
that never came, that was like that group.
But that, we call it Hiplos or Hiplos.
Yeah, because that's how it looks like it's
Yeah.
spelled.
Eblos, that's how she would say it, Eblos.
Hiplos?
Yeah.
Okay, but that is spelled Hiplos.
Yes, yeah.
But that was a specific name. You knew that to be a specific name in referring to Charles.
Charles, yes.
Okay. Was that name ever used to refer to anybody else?
Not that I'm aware
Okay. And then so we have Ned, Garrett, and
Hiplos.
Hiplos.
Did she give context as to why those names for Charles?
of. So, Chad would be the one that gave the context to her. She wasn't the one that would come up with stuff like this. So Ned Snyder, as I probably said on the air, you probably heard it, is Chad had this. He said that it's some childhood friend that Charles had, and that he died, and then he came back as he didn't ever leave. He was an unclean spirit that got trapped on the earth, and he was now attached to him for years, and he'd been studying him, right? It's his behaviors and stuff like that. That's what Chad came up with. And so then he pushed his spirit out of the body and took over. That's what he said.
Push Chad, Charles Spirit.
Yeah, so his spirit's now moved on. So if she totally believed it, I'm not sure, but I would guess at least most of her believed it. And so she believed that Charles was gone. He was already gone. So she was treating him like he was Ned Snyder.
Okay.
At least that's what I got an impression, you know. I don't know, I mean, my guess is how much did she believe it, like I've said on TV. If Chad's a Satan, he's a good one. So there was some doubt, right? There was some little doubt, which everybody doubted it, but anyway.
So with that being said, when we talked about
Yeah.
dark spirits, light spirits, you talked about
Translated beings.
translated beings, there's scores, there's,
I don't know that word.
that makes score for like a 4
Oh.
point,
Oh,
dark,
yeah, yeah.
light dark, you know,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so levels.
Yeah, I know
so
all
levels.
about the levels, yeah.
Is that something that Chad believes in? Is
Yeah.
that something that?
No,
you
he's the
believes?
one that frameworked. He frameworked it all. And so
Okay.
when he met her, he had this whole thing drawn out on paper, and she would just draw it to people. She'd make people like, "Oh, you gotta see, this is so cool," and she would draw the whole thing on paper. So she'd go, "Okay, this is the line." And she took great joy in sharing this. 4.1 means that you made a covenant before you came here. It's your third life. You finally made the covenant, light or dark. So you've been on the earth one time is your first time. No, pre-mortals, first time. Second time's, 2.0 would be your first time on earth.
Okay.
Then the next time would be, it's been a while since I've thought about this, 3.1? I can't, you gotta remember better than me. I don't remember. I tried to blank that out. Anyway, that would be the next time. People still hadn't decided if they were light or dark by that point, of course. according to Chad's theories. So when you died again, because you come back now the third time, that third time now you made a covenant. No, that was the 4.1. Sorry. Yeah, the third time would be 4.1, and that would mean that you made you either made a contract with Satan or Jesus.
Okay.
And then you were either that was a light contract or a dark contract. And that's when the numbers started 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, then 5, then did it up to 9 or whatever, or 8 or something like that.
So would those be different than a trust scale? Like, have you ever heard a trust, like,
I could guess.
about like a trust, like?
That would be different.
Okay.
Yes, this is why police like to talk about figuring out what these recorded or these texts mean, because they're not going to tell you. So trust was different. So 4.1 just meant how many times. Okay, the numbers meant how many times you've been on Earth.
Okay.
The L or the D means if you signed a contract with Satan or Jesus Christ. So
Okay.
if it's light, you signed one with him and you're good. You
Okay.
could switch over and go dark though, according to them.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
So anyway,
Could you go
that's
back?
that. Could you regress?
Could you? Yeah. Could
You
you, go
could
back?
always
Could
go
you go
back
from
there.
light to dark to
Yeah.
light?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was very hard, they said, but yes, you could.
Okay. It's possible.
Anyway.
There's hope for you.
There's hope.
Maybe.
There's hope for us. And so then they had these different scales. They would come up later. So everything evolved later. So nothing was all in the beginning. It was
Okay.
like little by little, like the rope got tighter and tighter as more knowledge. Well, I say fake knowledge, whatever you want to call it. The lies got bigger and darker as time went on. But in the beginning, nobody knew about these things, and the zombie word didn't come till later. And you probably know on text when they started using the Z word. I don't remember when they did, but it
Okay.
came shortly, sometime after. So yeah, there was this trust thing, and then they had a scale of 0 to 100% how much you could trust people.
Okay.
I was supposed to be like 97%. They were always building me up, telling me how wonderful I was, right? And so anyway, she would sometimes share like, oh, this person or that person, it's not trustworthy, it's this person, and that was their little game. Anyway, so yeah, there was different characteristics, but that was one of them. It's trustworthy.
How about, maybe you know or don't know, vibrations?
So vibrations, yes, I'm aware of that too. So according to how he would check, he used that little pendulum thing a lot.
Mhm.
I didn't know that in the beginning, but anyway.
Okay.
And 1,000 was supposed to mean, if you got to 1,000, that means you're translated, or
Okay.
you're beginning your translation. Anyway, that's a lie. Anyway, so 1,000, and then
Okay.
as you get higher in your vibration, you could portal at some point, maybe, I'm trying to remember what she would say, 2,500 maybe, or something like that.
Okay.
And so the more you went to the temple, your vibration would increase too. So it's just like your light would increase, your
Sure,
vibration,
sure.
that kind of idea.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So you mentioned zombies.
Yeah.
Was that ever a term that you were exposed to by them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell me more about the zombies.
So Ned was first this dark, unclean spirit that took over his body, so he was just referred to as Ned in the beginning.
Okay.
But then, I don't remember when, but at some point they're just called zombies.
Okay.
And so then they had these ideas about zombies. She said she had a dream once that an earthquake happened in Utah. And so people that fell on the earth, if they were able to get rid of all the zombies in the world, then those zombies wouldn't get into those dead bodies and come back, kind of idea. And so what she talked to her, what I saw her do, she would just do like a priesthood thing, where she had the priesthood power. She thought she had the patriarchal priesthood.
Okay.
Chad always told her she had all these powers. Anyway, and she would say, I remember one time she took a map and she's like, okay, here's the United States. We're going to do a prayer. Let's find out how many zombies are in Arizona. Okay, there's 20,000, whatever, or 10. I don't even remember the numbers.
Mhm.
It was so out there. And then she'd say a little prayer, whatever words she'd come up with that she thought were powerful. And then he would check, oh, somebody died. Look, you can go find out obituaries of it. Well, he'd say that later to David, but anyway. So then that was her way. In my opinion, what I saw, at least, was just through a prayer that these people would pass away.
And so
Does that make sense?
the people are actually living beings.
Yeah, so there would be like, everybody, let's say this police station, they're all alive.
Mhm.
And so let's say they would check and they say, oh, there's 10 zombies in the building, right? They'd say
Okay.
something like that. And then they'd do a prayer. And then they would say, oh, you know, according to his little pendulum or whatever, oh, it looks like out of the 20,000 that were in Arizona, you know, yesterday we found out there was 10,000 people that died, or there's only 500 left. You come up with something.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
And so they actually
Yeah.
suffered a physical death?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah,
so
they would
we
just
would,
die. Their
in
spirit
that
would
example,
leave.
in that
Yeah.
example, the 10 people here at the
Yeah,
police
so those
department,
people would be dead in the morning.
10 people would be dead in the
Yeah,
morning.
just by their prayer.
Okay.
But there was no evidence, so nobody really knew that was true. Because like, everybody dies every day. There was no way
To
it was
know if
just-
that was
No, it was
contributory.
ridiculous.
Okay.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. But yeah, that was his explanation of, oh yeah, this is how many. But now they got to the point where all the zombies were wiped off. You know, so according to their prayers. But they had no evidence of seeing it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I think you had a question about the truck, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So you know about Chad's truck, or not Chad's, Charles's truck
Yeah.
at the airport?
I heard that it was at the airport.
Mhm.
She told me that Alex drove it to the airport.
This would have been in January when.
Yeah, when he flew out of town.
When he
So
flew out of
He
town.
went out of town,
Right.
and then he went to the airport, dropped his truck off like she said he always dropped it off.
Yes.
And then Alex came to get it, and then they put it somewhere. I think, okay, we'll go back to that, because you're talking about where different places she could go, yeah.
So Alex recovered it,
Yes.
and is that where you guys put his clothes to, Charles's clothes?
No, so let me try to remember the best.
Okay.
This is a little, I don't remember all the details because they were crazy and rushy, but at some point, let's see, I went over to her house and I saw her box up his clothes. So she had a box that she put his clothes in. She put one in the storage, like back behind food storage,
Okay.
and then she took another one to DI or Goodwill, and she dropped it off at Goodwill. And I was like, isn't that a bit like, isn't this kind of overboard what you're doing? No, I was told I got to do this. You know, Jesus told me this is what I got to do. So anyway, and so his clothes were not in the truck. I mean, that's the only thing I saw is the box and behind there, and then the box that went there. And she might have done other things, but I don't remember what she did. I know she was going through some paperwork up in the office, looking for passports and important documents and something about a computer, but I can't remember if she kept it or did.
Charles's computer.
Yeah, I don't remember what she did with it. Did she take it? I don't remember if she took it, but I remember something about a computer, Charles's computer, and about money being transferred and things like that. And at some point, she wanted me to follow her. She was going to put the truck somewhere else. I'm trying to remember the details of this. So she drives it to a hotel in Gilbert, and she just parks it there. I don't think she was staying there. I don't think so.
She had said that she was staying at a hotel
She
in Gilbert PD.
She was staying at a hotel. I did see her at one hotel, but that wasn't the same hotel. That's what I'm
Okay.
trying to remember. I think it was like a I remember she said something like a Marriott something Courtyard maybe.
Okay, Courtyard by
Does
Marriott.
does that sound right? I'm trying to remember. So Alex,
Hyatt?
yeah. No, I don't remember. I'm not good with hotel names or car names. Don't ask me names of my own car hardly. That's not my thing. So I remember she wanted to move the truck. She moved it. I remember she dropped it off. She drove it and dropped it off at this place. And it was right off the highway. It's like 202. It was right by the temple, like that 202.
Okay. The new temple in Gilbert?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was near that location.
Do you know who helped her with that?
Well, I was with her
Oh,
in
you
the
were
car.
with
I
her?
was with her in her car.
So you followed her in the car?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just me and her.
Okay, and
I
was
can't
that
remember if it was her
after,
car or my car. I can't. That's what I'm trying to remember. Is like what car we were driving.
is it before or after you went to Gilbert PD?
I think it was before. I think it was before. Whenever. Well, because let me just. Okay, it was before. This is how I got to remember events. So what happens? So anyway, she parks it there. I don't hear from her. She takes JJ to school, drops him off. Charles steals her purse.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I text her the next morning, something about how you doing or where are you, what, something. I don't remember what I said. And he has her phone.
Yes.
And he said something like, hey, come to the house, bring the truck. I'm like, what? And then he said something like, the truck's over at your husband's office. And I'm thinking, this doesn't sound right. It's not. And I'm thinking, she lost her Fruit Loops or what. I'm not sure at this point. And it's something about getting the keys. I'm like, I don't have the keys. And then he doesn't know that, so he's trying to get me to help him find his truck, and I'm like, I don't know, So anyway, I end up going over there, and her car's not there, and I come in, and two guys are like doing the locks because he busted the door down, and he goes, hi Melanie. I'm like, hi Charles, and I'm like, where's Lori? She's not here, is she? No, she's not here. I'm like, oh man. And so she's like, hey, come here, I gotta talk to you, and I was like, man, it was so uncomfortable. Oh my gosh. Now I look back, I'm like, oh, my heart breaks for Charles. He was so caring and I'm so worried about her. She's lost her. She thinks she's some trans-legged being that's married to Moroni, and she thinks I'm this Ted, he called Ted Snyder guy, and I'm like,
So he referred to it as Ted?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm like this. This is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh man, I don't know what to say. Oh man, it was bad. It was
Did you
so
tell
bad.
him about the truck, or had you guys not removed it, or?
I don't even know if we talked about the truck.
Okay.
He got his truck back, but I'm trying to remember now. You know
It
what?
would have been after the Gilbert visit. is my
Probably.
guess.
So this was neat. This was really interesting. So anyway, I gave him a hug goodbye, and I didn't say much. I was dumbfounded pretty much. Anyway, so I leave, and I'm driving down the street. I called Chad because I knew that she was connected to it. And I was like, do you know where Lori is? He's like, I don't know. He acted like he was clueless. Like, he thought that I didn't know anything because she wasn't supposed to tell me anything.
Oh.
Yeah. This was all supposed to be between her and him. But luckily she spilled it so I can share it in the future to everybody.
Right.
But she was not one that could keep a secret, I think. And anyway, so he was like, I don't know. And he was plain clueless. And anyway, so I get this random call, and I'm like, who the heck's this? So she got another phone, I guess, and I just guessed it could have been her. And she goes, oh yeah, Charles took my purse, he stole it, da-da-da. I said, hold on, Jason Mal is parked like right in front of me by the park. I stopped by the park on the exit out. And I'm like, maybe this is some God intervention thing. I don't know why, he's an ex-police guy, so
Yeah, I
he's
know.
sitting there, being a good officer, texting on the side of the road. I was like, that's so him. And so I giggle at that, right? And so anyway, I was like, Jason, like, this just happened. He goes, well, go to the police. You need to go to the police, and you need to report that her keys are stolen. I'm like, okay. So then I tell her, I was like, I think we should go to the police. And she's like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. So anyway, Charles had been in there before, but we didn't know it until after we got there. And then
Did you mention the truck thing to Jason too?
I don't remember. Probably not. I don't remember.
Could you have? I only asked that because
I don't
I've
know.
talked to him too, so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's
I'd
fair.
have to guess.
Okay.
It's a yes or a no. I don't know.
I don't know is also an acceptable answer, right?
I don't know. I don't remember every conversation I've had about this whole crazy story. Unfortunately, I don't have that great of a recall. I wish I did. Yeah, so does that answer your questions?
Yes.
Okay. Did that fill in some blanks?
It corroborates information, how's that?
Okay, I know. All truth will come together if it's true.
So let me get this right. So you took Lori to pick up the truck at the airport. And Lori picked up the truck, is that true?
Oh, I didn't go to the airport. That was
How did-
Alex.
Alex went to the airport.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
Alex.
I did not go to the airport.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Alex.
That was Alex. Some people in the media got that confused
Okay.
too. I was like, oh, I
So
never
Alex
said I
took
went
Lori
there.
to the airport to pick up Charles' truck.
Yeah, and then they
They
put it
dropped it
somewhere.
off at a hotel.
Yeah, it could have
And then
been.
you
Yeah.
said that clothes were taken, one box to Goodwill and one to behind the food storage.
Yeah, it was before Charles came back because I remember he was out of town. So
Okay.
yeah, he was out of town.
And you asked her specifically about the Goodwill, why you doing that? And she said because the Lord told
Well,
her.
yeah, I was like, why are you telling him all these? I'm trying to remember if she told me how much she told him. I was like, why are you taking all his clothes? That's like, I thought that was really out of control. And so I was like, why? I think I said something like, isn't this a bit extreme? I think that's probably more accurate what I would have said. Isn't this a bit extreme? And she's like, no. So that was before Charles got back.
Okay.
Do you remember her behavior at the Gilbert Police Department when she was telling the officer about
Yeah.
getting rid of his clothes?
I just remember she was pretty upbeat the whole time. She was kind of a happy, just acting like, yeah. I'm sure that you remember seeing that video coverage probably. I didn't even watch it. I couldn't go back and watch it. I was like, oh.
Oh, I've watched it.
I couldn't even watch it because I was like partially out of her, and I was like, I don't want to see myself in that video. I'm tired of seeing myself on TV.
So tell me about Julie Clement.
Yeah.
Are you friends with her?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
And I was a little bit friends with her. It was Sulema that was friends with her.
Yeah,
And
my
Sulema and
understanding.
her.
Okay.
And they did energy work. That's how they knew each other.
Gotcha. Did you ever attend any kind of, my understanding, their prayer circles?
Yeah,
with them?
a few times. Mhm.
Okay. How about one in August after Charles' death?
Yeah.
You remember going to the house?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So we met at, so let's see, who was there? It was Melanie, Alex, I think Alex was there, Julie, Sulema, me, David, Chad, and Lori. That'd been it.
Okay.
I mean, so yeah, so they wanted to have a little prayer, yeah. And he whipped out a seer stone. I actually saw him with a seer stone.
Who did?
Chad did.
Chad did?
Yeah, I can't remember if I told that the first time. Sometimes I was like, do I need to share everything? Like,
What's
you
the
know,
import-
like,
what's the
first
importance of
time.
that?
I don't know. He just had it in his hand. I don't know. He just had it. Maybe he just wanted to show that he had it. I mean, he didn't say anything about it other than I saw it. I was like,
What is it? What is a seer stone to you? As far as
well, there was no explanation. I could
Okay.
just guess what it. I could guess like you
Okay.
could through scriptures what it is.
Okay.
So he identified it as a seer stone.
Yeah, but he didn't go. He didn't talk about it. He just said, well, if he didn't, I don't remember. I don't remember saying anything about it.
Do you remember any talk or during that prayer about Hiplos?
Possibly. There's a good chance. Well, let's see. Charles was already dead, right? So I wouldn't think they would have talked about that.
I think Julie had mentioned something, Clement had mentioned something about a dragon.
Yes, I remember her. So I didn't have any of their visionaries.
Okay.
That was not any. I don't do energy work,
Okay.
so this is all something I don't. That's their stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
just say that's their department.
Sure.
And it seems like I remember Julie had this veil that seemed to be thinner, where she could see something, so could Sulema. It seemed like there was a prayer where there was a dragon. They saw I saw a dragon.
Okay.
Maybe they mentioned it a few times, but if they were in that little circle saying a prayer, I don't know why Helios would be mentioned if Charles was already dead.
Was there a reason behind that particular prayer circle on that day?
I'm trying to remember what, I remember them saying prayers. I remember Sulema speaking. And I'm trying to remember if they were talking about certain people that they were trying to help the spirits, like that they thought that they had the power to take these spirits out of the bodies.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember who she was focusing her energy on. And I can't recall. It could have been Brandon. It wouldn't have been Tammy, because Tammy had not been claimed anything. My guess is it could have been Brandon.
Okay.
But I am not
Yeah, just
100%
sure.
I'm not 100% on that. Or maybe it wasn't even. Maybe she was talking about the earth. Hold on, I'm just trying to remember this. Because Sulema thought she had the power to control elements and
Mhm.
bring earthquakes about and those kind of things. So that might have been more of that kind of. I really, it was so out there. I'm trying to remember what that prayer. David wouldn't even remember any of it because he was so checked out. he was like, this is so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He was so uncomfortable at it. Oh, he was so uncomfortable at it. Anyway, I'm sure he probably doesn't even remember he blanked out. They could have been talking about the earth. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. She
With-
just had this.
On that note, talk to me about Zilema. How well do you know Zilema?
Well, I knew her. She won't
Yeah.
talk to me anymore.
Okay.
When I told her I was going to the police, it was done. So yeah, we were friends in the ward. We knew each other probably about a year, maybe, or
Okay.
less.
Okay. So you talked about how she had the power, she felt she had the power to control elements and bring about earthquakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. How, do you know how long she and Alex were dating together or anything like that?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was just, hello, how are you, getting to know you. It didn't happen until kind of right at the end.
Okay.
So if you want to know more about that, what I know about that is that she was content being single, but Chad and Lori had said, well, you and Alex have been married in premortal, in another life, and you had been married, and you guys would be part of the 144,000, and you need to move up to Idaho and get married and all that stuff. And she was like, no, I'm not getting the same answer. It was kind of tit for tat between her and Lori about that. But she was waiting to get answers. I remember one point, this was like right at the end. This was like my last time repeated when I saw her. But she's like, I remember Chad and Lori in Hawaii. And me and Alex did a blessing through the phone because they were being attacked by Julie Rowe through a text. The text that went through, they hit it. All of a sudden the dragon, this is according to Sulema, I know. We try not to smile during these moments, but I know. Okay, anyway, this is why the interview was hard with Nate. Some people thought I was like a little too lighthearted because you look like Nate. You can't help but to go, this is freaking weird. Anyway, so she said, oh, me and Alex were in this prayer and we could see the dragon. His priesthood power is so amazing. You know, she just was so like wowed by it. And they helped cast that dragon out from Hawaii where they were, and anyway, it's supposed to help them. So, so let's see, they got married and, so okay, they moved there in September. So I would say, when did they start? Okay, so, oh yeah, okay, so if we were at the dinner in August, they started getting more friendly then. They started getting more attractive. So I say that's summer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's helping me, yeah, with just settings. If I can remember a place, and it seemed they started to kind of like each other in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
How close were you with Alex?
Friends, you know. Yeah, friends.
Would you contact him, call him on the phone for anything, or would you do the same?
Very occasionally,
Okay.
but yeah, that would happen.
Describe his
Personality.
dedication. Describe his dedication to Lori.
So I remember in the beginning when they started talking about her Joe, he was very protective of her. So there was a lot of like, you know, he would describe Joe as this horrible person and how, you know, he felt the need to protect his sister. And
Okay.
so I remember saying something about he tased him in the nads, that he would say, and then something about the trunk. And he didn't care about if he went to jail for her. He was like, he felt like that was his duty to protect his sister. I don't know why he felt like that, but he did for some reason. Now, later I understood why he felt like that more is because what Chad told him. Chad told him later, you know, as they started getting into their crazy, more and more of their crazy doctrine, right? Then they would be introduced to him. In the beginning, Alex was a nobody. He'd just been here on Earth once.
Okay.
But then later they would say, oh, now we understand you only had wits because you're only here for Lori. You didn't need to come, you're our exalted. So you were that angel that stopped Laman Lemuel from killing Nephi. You were that angel.
Okay.
So he took it on as his identity. And so he felt like his job now was to kind of protect his sister and be that angel of whatever.
So you think he was 100% buy-in through
Well,
this?
I think so, because when he said he moved, he got a confirmation. Lori said, you pray about it, see if you should move to Idaho. And he said, 100%, I got this. Yes, I need to go. And then when I saw him, the last time I saw him, I said, this zombie thing, like I'm not 100% on that. And even Sulema said, yeah, I'm still getting confirmation on that.
Okay.
He goes, 100%. Melanie, 100%, I believe it. And I'm like,
Okay.
so my guess is he fell for the whole thing. And then the interesting thing is he really had a lot of weight on Chad. He really believed him. He even gave him a patriarchal blessing.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Were you there for that blessing, or
No.
did you ever hear the blessing?
So that day that I saw him in the Greenbelt when I was
Yeah.
walking between two houses, when I said, do I want to have JJ? What is going on? I'm starting to feel like something. I'm still kind of in that shocking coming back from the whole police thing. Anyway, so I was trying to figure out what was going on still. Anyway, so as we were walking, he has on his phone, he goes, anything. I don't know, he probably read a little bit, I don't remember what he said.
Okay.
He was like tearful about it.
Okay.
He was like really believing, like, Chad gave me this beautiful blessing, and I just cried like a baby. And Melanie's like, I don't ever cry until after I have a blessing. I don't cry during it. She's saying something about that. And I was like, just listening.
And this was in Idaho?
No, this was in
This was
Arizona.
Arizona here,
This was
okay.
Arizona, yeah.
Do you remember when that was?
Yeah, it was, well, okay, so 26th they called me, and 27th, 28th would have been Thanksgiving. The day they got married, what day was that, 29th?
November?
Yeah, was that the 29th? I think I figured it out on my paper somewhere. So, it's the day they got married, it was that day.
Okay.
Okay.
Describe the patriarchal blessing to me in your terms. What do you think the importance of a patriarchal blessing is?
Well, the way I grew up believing patriarch is a patriarch is called of God. He's a particular person over a whole stake that gives a blessing to a person about their life.
Okay.
So, I don't know what Chad thought he could do, but he sure thought he played that role there.
So would you say that Chad was not authorized to give
No,
such a
absolutely
blessing?
not.
Okay.
No.
Would you say that such a blessing would be like some sort of, like if you got it at a younger age, would be some sort of guidance for you? Or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, it talks about your life and your gifts that you have and maybe some things that could happen in your future. If you are obedient, you can have those blessings happen to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
That being said, I just wanted to play, so this particular clip is, I have it labeled as patriarchal blessing.
Okay.
Just for purposes of recording. So just, if you could just tell me whose voices you hear in this.
Okay.
Chad Daybell, it is
That's Chad.
November 24th, 2019, a Sunday afternoon, 5:15 p.m. We are going to give Alex Lamar Cox a patriarchal blessing.
Alexander Lamar.
That'd be Lori.
Alexander Lamar Cox.
So the two people you heard voices were Lori and
That would
Chad?
be Lori and Chad.
Okay. Okay. How about your relationship with Chad? I know that introduction was done, or whether it was done or not,
Yeah.
in St. George.
Oh, with me or with them?
With the two, I think you went to see Chad in St. George was the first time they met, right?
That was the first time we met. I didn't go specifically to see Chad.
Correct.
Okay.
But
yeah,
But you'd known Chad before then?
I had known Chad before
Okay.
him.
Describe your relationship with Chad.
So when we first met, it was very brief. We just kind of introduced, like, hey, I'm Melanie. I live in Arizona. I've had some beautiful experiences with the Lord myself, and I probably mentioned I did classes. Probably I become friends with Mike and Nancy.
Okay.
I don't even know if I even shared that much. Just a little bit.
Okay.
If you read that forward of my book, that part, he talks about that in that.
Okay.
I sent that picture to Rob. I don't know if you have a copy of that.
Okay. Okay.
But anyway, I have a copy of that, and he writes a little bit in detail, like his remembering me. So
Okay.
that would be more detailed there.
Now, if you look at this hierarchy or circle or however you want to do it with trust and vibrations and scores and everybody else, who would you put at the core or the center of this group?
Chad and Lori were they consider themselves the head of that group.
Okay, and the group, was there a particular name for the group?
No, this is where a lot of people are like, is there a big following? Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll do my best to describe what I at least know.
Okay.
There's lots of other things I don't know, because Chad's so quiet about his life, I don't
Okay.
know a lot about it. In Chad's little circle with Lori, there was just the people that I mentioned around that table, except for there were 3 other girls, but they kind of got kicked out of the group, and I think you know who they are: Serena, Christina, and Nicole. They got booted out like right in the beginning. So,
For any particular reason?
well, I remember Serena was calling Chad too much, according to Lori, and so now we decided those two decided that she needed to be out,
Okay.
because now she's becoming dark.
Okay.
She didn't do anything. Thankfully for her, she's out.
Okay.
Christina and Nicole were the first ones that Lori started talking to her. That was where I met her. So they were the first girls that she would want to ordain as part of the 144,000. Those were those two girls. And they left the group. I think they started getting suspicious. I think Christina in particular gets suspicious of Lori because she would call her out on some things at some point or question some things like, well, Chad, he's married, kind of. She was a little bit more smarter of the group of us.
Right.
Anyway, and so she got suspicious. So then they started saying she was all these things about her. She was getting darker, and then at some point, I remember, oh, this is bad. I remember this now. She was. What did they call it? She wasn't 100% human. It's like she had like another, man, I can't remember what she referred to it as now. I want to say lizard or some lizard. Anyway, that's really out there.
Thinking of it, there's a Geico commercial where they have
Yeah,
commercial.
kind of like she came from some other. Anyway, that's you don't even want her to know
Okay.
that she did
All
that.
right.
You don't want that to come out.
So
But
she's
anyway,
gone.
she's out of there.
She's gone.
Nicole's her best friend, so she's out too.
Okay.
Nicole's very sweet, and as you probably know. And so anyway, so really that was it as
Okay.
far as this whole kind of zombie talk. That was it. Now, Chad had Julie Rose friends. He left them. They are evil.
Mhm.
They are mixed up with these energy work things. I think this has all come from energy work. Now that I look back and what the Lord has taught me personally, like, well, let me tell you what happened.
Yeah.
And because I watched it, and so it was just made to my mind, like this is how, and energy to work opened the door. And so Julie Rowe, I believe, got him really, and between the two, who started what, that's what I'm still trying to kind of figure out.
Okay.
But between the two of them, she didn't know about the zombie thing. I think he came up with that, but she introduced it, or either Eric Smith, that follower of Julie's,
Okay.
came up with this multiple probation thing, I think. I heard it could have been from him. I don't know that that's true. I would not know that by somebody telling me that, other than recently, after all this has gone down, like, well, Eric Smith wrote a book on multiple probations, and I said, well, somebody mentioned it. Anyway, I've had people contact me. One lady contacted me that was a part of that little group of Julie Rose, and she was telling me how things were going, and I was like, we were comparing, like, I remember that, Chad doing that to Lori. Like, he had some power over her sexually, and she was saying that some guy did that to her, and she's like, that's just what they do in that group, and I'm like, that's their energy work or something that they do. I said, I don't do energy work. I don't know if she did energy work or not, but anyway, she got out of the group. Her husband was with her and helped pull her out, and she was so grateful, right, that she got out. But so that group exists, but I think Chad was just part of them, and then he kind of broke away from Julie because he got tired of her. According to when they first met, Chad and Lori at St. George, he said, I'm done with Julie Rowe. Like, she texts me all the time, but I'm done with her. Like, she's so da-da-da. Then there's all these energy groups out there, though. Either, Julie's introduced, she's done her little workshops, but even before, she did that, there's people doing energy works. And I believe that a lot of these groups, now Utah and Arizona, they're doing a lot of these energy works are talking about multiple probations. So it's not that he created it so much, it's just somehow that darkness got out somehow about this lie. I call it doctrines of devils, that's my word for it. And it got out, and it's kind of plagued some of those groups. So I don't necessarily think he's the founder of any of that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
But in this group, you would put Lori and Chad.
Yes, but in their particular thing, excluding everybody else, they were like the group. And they had these number systems. So you probably saw someone text, like, there's a group of, I remember 72, let's see, what is in the church? You got your 12, then your 70,
Yeah.
then 144, right?
And
And
they
so
have-
she was like, okay, we're in charge of 24. She said at one point she was in charge, they were in charge of like 24, like
I think
4
there
men
was-
and 12 women. Does that sound familiar?
I think what I
Less than,
had
remember them? 24?
found
20, yeah.
something similar, which is the dark and light scale of all church
Leadership.
apostles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's different. But this was, so she said basically in the spirit world, they had planned this out that they were in charge of that group.
Okay.
And so that, anyway, so she was in a small scale. I don't know what he had going on.
Mhm.
But she wasn't such a social butterfly. She was not the kind of person that wanted a big crowd and know a lot of people. That wasn't her.
Lori.
Yeah. She was more like, I'm just going to be corrupt my own family, not. Yeah.
Do you think she took instruction from Chad?
Yeah. Mhm.
Would she do anything without his I hate to say authorization or at least insight?
In the beginning, I remember her saying things like, I said to Chad, like, I had this experience with around in the temple, and I felt like he gave me the patriarchal priesthood, and he would confirm it. Yes, you did. Yes, you were married to Moroni before. So he would confirm her little things, and then she goes, I felt like I was supposed to find these. Yes, you were, Lori. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then she said at one point, well, he's so good at giving revelation, I just go to him. I'm not as good as I used to be, or I'm not as good. He's really good at it. So I ask him. So she'd be asking him at this point, you've seen a lot of texts. At this point, is this person light or dark? This person, what are they, 4 point, da-da-da-da-da. That was their, and so you could see she would go to him for that, right?
So
he wouldn't go to her for that. She would probably just give him a name or something like that.
Do you have any idea how Lori would have found out about Charles and Adam's coming to Arizona to?
Oh.
Yeah.
I guess is that Charles would have just texted her or called her and said he was coming.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember how she would have known about Adam. Maybe Alex could have told her? I don't know. I don't remember.
So if a message was on there, on her phone, or it's basically said to Melanie Boudreau, I'm on the phone, I'm trying to find out what to do. Do you think that she would seek Chad for advice?
Always.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, always. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about Melanie Boudreau. What's your relationship with her? What's her part in
I'm
this?
friends with her. So Lori, as you know, raised her partially, so she feels like she's kind of like a mom to her.
Sure.
She would, in the beginning, Melanie I didn't think she was quite into it at the beginning, and then Lori just kind of camped on her for some reason, like Brandon. Lori went after Brandon, her husband, for some reason. He's gay, he's this, he's that. And then she would build this story up of how she tried to oh, look at this picture, it makes him gay. Like, it didn't look like it was gay, but anyway. And so she would build this story up about him being gay. And then, I don't know why she honed in on her so much. She just did.
Okay.
And then she maybe because she thought she was such at a high level, because she got to the point where she's like, yeah, no, Melanie's exalted too. She was married to Peter, Jane, Peter, James, and John. And so Brandon would be her equal opposite and in opposition to her. And so for some reason, Lori put all her energy into him. Thankfully, she didn't put her energy into me. Thankfully, I divorced Brennan, which was actually really good, because then that kind of got him out of the picture, which who knows what she would have done with that. And luckily, they liked me, so they kind of just left us alone. But anyway, so she went after him, and then at some point he changed from Brandon being just dark to now he's a zombie, and he was part of Hitler's team.
Do you remember when that was that he changed?
When she started talking like that? Near the end. I mean, it's always closer, it gets crazier at the end, right? It seems. Probably in the summer is my guess.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I really
After Charles's
don't
death?
remember. I probably before then.
Okay.
Or, I don't know for sure. It was always evolving. Oh, we'll see. Wait, hold on. So I remember she was moving at the same time Lori moved in the house that Charles was shot in. Because Melanie moved, she got a divorce, so this is how I got to remember it. So I got to remember placing them in my mind places. Probably, she would probably call him a zombie by that point. Yeah, I would say so. There we go.
Thought I silenced that.
Yeah, so anyways, she just started saying that he was after her. I think this is what I got the impression from Lori, is that Chad would say through Lori, your house is bugged by Brandon. He's got all these little speakers and microphones. I was like, does he really? I really was just like, really? Are they really in there? And then, oh, you're being followed by the, some private detective, which, he did have a private detective at one point, right? But I don't know if he had one at that point. I don't know. But so she became paranoid. She became very paranoid, and they would call her every day, give her blessings on the phone, according to what Lori told me. And that anytime I talked to Lori, I didn't talk to her as much after I met David. It really started kind of weaning off me, and all the focus. It seems like now that I look back, all the energy was focused to Melanie. Bless her heart. It was horrible what they did to her. And anyway, so she just got more and more paranoid, and he got more and more evil, according to them. And so then she was told by Lori, like, you got to move up here, that kind of thing. So, yeah. What else do you want to know?
It's almost like she just preyed on her.
She did prey on her. She put all her energy into her. Yeah, she really did.
Okay.
Yeah. Trying to very much convince her that her phone was everything was being bugged. Her phone,
Sure.
her car was being bugged, everything. She couldn't live a life. She had to get new phones all the time because they were getting taken over by the dark people.
So would I be missing anybody if I put, as far as a group of people, Lori, Chad, Zulema, Melanie Boudreau, Alex, and I think maybe you were on the outskirts somewhere, kind of teetering, ready to run and ready,
Yeah.
Anybody else that you can think of?
Well, Julie
Rowe?
No,
Oh,
Julie Clement.
Okay.
But she was kind of right at the end.
Okay.
So she wasn't in the beginning at all. And then those three girls.
Do you think Julie Clement had any idea regarding zombies, beings, or do you think maybe she was just
she knew about that.
naive and stuff like that?
Well, she did know about it. But I think because of she believes her gifts in the energy world, she probably thought that she was just helping out. She did not. I mean, if she met with them, Chad and Lori, it was probably a couple times, my guess. Unless they did more behind my back. But, not around me.
Absolutely.
Maybe a few more times.
Because I think she's indicated that she's only saw Chad twice.
That's probably correct.
And then she got introduced by Zulema.
Yeah.
And that they kind of, from what she's saying is she was almost felt like she was being used for her energy.
Probably. That's probably true.
That would be consistent.
Okay. I'd say she was being used for her energy abilities. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like it would be right. And I don't know how many times she met with Lori, but it wasn't a whole bunch.
So back to January. When Lori left Charles, and then Charles stayed in Texas with JJ.
Well, eventually he moved
Eventually with JJ.
Yeah.
Where did Lori go?
So I knew she was in the hotel in the beginning, but then she went to Alex's house.
Is that the?
I don't even remember where it was because I wasn't
Williamsville,
familiar.
Hyatt on Williamsville. Did you ever go see her over there?
Well, I think one time, her and Tylee were there one time.
Okay.
I think I only went to the hotel maybe once or twice.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay.
So I don't recall how, she was so going crazy that I didn't kind of catch every move she made, of course. And then when Alex, I guess he had that house, so she moved in with Alex.
Okay.
And he lived out there in Santan.
Santan.
Yeah, I don't think she lived anywhere else. And then she went to Hawaii. And that was kind of like her getaway home, in the hotel.
Yeah.
Don't remember the name of the hotel. Please don't ask me to remember because I don't even remember. Especially because they're Hawaiian names and I'm not going to get it. Anyway, and then she came back and where did she go when she came back?
Are you aware of her going to Idaho in March?
Is that the time she was living in Texas? Because I went to see her in Texas, and I think that was
March
the month of
19th to the 20th. Her and Chad.
Could have. Yeah, she did
flew
mention
from
sometimes.
Idaho to Arizona.
He came down and did a class for a group of people.
Okay.
It wasn't at my house this time, and I remember she was living in that house before the last house, the one that was in January, the one she lived in January. And or, yeah, the one that's not at the big house, but the next house.
Mhm.
Trying to remember this. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Where were we?
But
Sorry.
she came back and from Hawaii.
Yeah, and
It looks like she kind of moved around,
I
so,
think
so
so.
here to here.
I think that
She went to Idaho, her and Chad in Idaho, and then it looks
Yeah.
like in April that she was in Houston. Do you remember
Yeah.
a thing in Houston that Chad might have gone to?
I remember when I got to Houston, she said, I'm gonna get, Chad and I are gonna go do some of our mission work together.
Okay.
And then I left, or either got, I'm trying to remember if I got there or left. Anyway, between the time I got there and left, I was not there, but she said that she went to a hotel. I remember I was like, oh, she's in a hotel. And then she said that she said she was supposed to go to Idaho to portal. They were going to portal into Idaho Temple.
Okay.
I know, try not to laugh. And another temple. So Idaho Falls, Rexler, something about that. And
Okay.
but I'm thinking they probably were in a hotel now. That's probably a good guess.
Okay.
So, and maybe she never left that hotel. She totally made up the whole story.
Okay.
So there we go.
Did you go to an event there?
In Houston?
Yeah.
No.
So there was never an event there?
Oh, there was never an event in Houston.
Okay.
Oh, was there an event? Was there an event there?
So and that would have been in April of 19.
That sounds, that could be right about that time.
Are you aware of a group called Avow?
Yes.
Do you know anybody by the name of with Avow?
Doesn't sound familiar. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a head person or somebody with Avow that, do you know who that,
Everybody.
anybody
Yeah.
else that you know from that group?
Well, okay, so when I joined the group, I
Mhm.
met a few people we went camping with up in
Okay.
the Arizona mountains, so I know like, one person died, her name was Marty, so she'd be Marty Bemace, but she passed away. And then Lorinda Luck, she'd been on there, and then there was a girl. And I wasn't real familiar with these people. I didn't get on Avow very much. I was not one of these people that were on these forums, and I was
Okay.
like, read a little bit. Very periodically, I might like, hey, let's try this product. It's really good, or something like that. But I did not get into their exchanges. So no, if the names scroll by, I didn't hold on to
So
them.
what is Avow?
So Avow is a forum. Do you know what a forum is?
Mhm.
Okay. So it's a forum, and it's called LDS Avow, means a voice of warning. So it originally started by Roger Young,
Okay.
who started teaching about, last day stuff. And so they put really good information, actually. They had like gardening techniques to how to store food, current events.
Mhm.
Then they got to the dreams and visions, where they compiled a whole bunch of people's dreams and visions about things they saw in the future. And then, anyway, so then they pull a thread out, and then people would start a thread like, this happened, this disaster happened in California today, or,
Okay.
just all these different threads. And so people would make comments and all kinds of, they'd start one up, and they started off. So I got off there like, I don't know, a year or two ago, and the group drove me crazy. So I don't, have I probably ever seen her name scroll past? Who knows? Maybe, but I don't know her personally that I know of. I mean, they have different names on there, so
Sure.
if she has a different name, I don't know.
So so being a forum, you wouldn't see something like send an email. Do you think it's out of the ordinary want anybody to send an email to Chad Daybell that would say, my name is so-and-so from Avow,
Yeah, that would be something that would happen.
and
Sure.
we're doing a young men's, young women's thing at this location?
It could
Can
be,
you-
it could be,
okay.
it could be, yeah,
Okay.
something like that could happen. Because you
Okay.
could send messages to people in there, yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. I didn't know how it worked because it was complicated, so
Sure.
I wasn't good at that.
So it was Avow is most like a forum or like
It's
a
a forum.
threads, that type of thing.
Mhm,
So
it's
it's
a
not
forum.
not a company where there's somebody that's head and in charge of it.
Well, yeah. Well, he took over, he bought it from, I don't know if that's the right word, but
Mhm.
maybe bought it from Roger, he left it. And so he's the one that's kind of in charge of the whole thing.
Okay.
And he gets money, so he, it's like a fee to get on there. It's like $35 for a year or something
Do you
like
have information for?
that. He would send emails to me, but I don't know him personally.
Okay.
I mean,
Email
the group would send.
Okay.
It was like, blanket, we wish you'd come back to the forum kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Which I
Okay.
deleted the other day. I was like, really? You're asking me of all people to come back to the forum? Do you even know that my name was sent? I was like, yeah, right.
Right.
No, I don't know him personally, and I don't think I've ever talked to him personally. So,
Okay.
yeah. I would just say prideful group. I try to stay away from him. It was
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Think of anything else? I think that really helps with some of the narrowing some of that timeline.
Do you know who is?
Yeah. I know him first because he was the publisher for Jason Mao. And then he became the bishop also of that board that, I want to say, I get their names confused, Charles and
Charles
Lori
and
moved
Lori,
into
okay.
the second house. So he was the bishop for that when she left him. He was that bishop.
Okay.
And he was also the publisher, so he helped me publish my little book. And I didn't know him. I met him at a few events when he went with Jason to help promote his books. I think I met him face to face just a few times, but nice man. Yeah.
So, if I use the term, and I told you the term, and this is just your opinion, okay, and with your knowledge of the church,
Okay.
that I'm going to be like Nephi, that I'm going to be like Nephi, or if it was a Nephi and Laban ending, what would that mean to you?
So I think they had that discussion. Alex and Lori talked about something about a Laban and the Nephi thing.
Okay.
So that would mean to me, that part where, well, I don't know how well you know the Book of Mormon. I don't know you that
I'm
well.
learning so much. It's crazy.
So, well, okay, there's a story of Nephi who, there's a guy named Laban who's, they're trying to get the plates from him, and so he would have to cut off his head to be able to get those, retain those plates, and he was more of a wicked man.
Laban was?
Laban was wicked.
Okay.
And so anyway, he would have to, the spirit would move upon Nephi, so they felt, the moving upon Nephi, say you need to cut his head off, because he's not, it's gone 3 times to him now, and he's not giving you the plates. And so, anyway, the spirit says you need to cut his head off, and he does it, and he's horrified by it, because he doesn't really want to do it. He's never killed anybody before. But he does it, and he was able to dress in the clothes of Laban and go get and retrieve the plates, and then they were able to go out and leave Jerusalem. They went from Jerusalem, and then they left from that area. Because they left, they needed those plates then. And so, my guess is that when they were talking about that, which, I didn't know what they were going to do, I didn't know all these things, but if I could look back and understand that now, that would probably mean like he would need to sacrifice probably Charles's life is my guess. That's what they're referring
and
to.
let me back up. You overheard a conversation?
I heard them slightly talking about it.
And when was this?
And I, probably right before Charles came down, or days, I don't remember if it was
Okay.
days before it.
Okay.
And I don't remember if she was talking on the phone with somebody. I kind of was just briefly hearing it, but I can't remember if Alex was sitting there or if they were on the phone. I can't recall. I just remember it just sounds familiar. I'll just say it sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure it was before he passed away. That's what it feels like to me anyway. And so my guess is that they felt like that was my guess, interpreting it that not knowing that at the time, but now that they felt inspired that was a moment where they could take Charles's life. Not Charles, they really felt at the time. Well, at least Alex really felt his evilness inside there.
Okay.
So
in essence, they wouldn't be really taking the life of Charles Valla.
No.
They would be taking the life of
Eblos. Yeah.
or Garrett or Ned.
Yeah, that's what they believed.
Are you understanding that, because they gave 3 names for Charles, other than Charles,
Mhm.
so are all 3 in Charles at the same time? Or?
No, one would move on, and
Okay.
the one would get pushed out, and then the other one would take over.
Okay.
So Garrett was next, and then Garrett got pushed out, and then Eblos stepped in.
And that would be fitting their definition of a zombie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And their way of getting rid of zombies then was at some point either praying or whatever to end that entity's life.
Yeah, so that entity would just leave, just like Garrett left, just like Ned left. So
So
to
they-
me, it was very surprising that that he died the way he did. I was like, wow, okay, you know what I'm saying?
Sure,
So yeah,
sure.
that was very unusual.
So they leave and they're never to come back again, because you said, I'm surprised that they were mentioning Evos again because Charles was already dead.
Right. So once he was dead, like where would Eblos be? I mean, and they could have. I don't know. I don't remember, but I would guess that Eblos was gone.
Sure.
And if they mention him again, I really don't remember anything about Eblos again.
So a particular body can only be consumed by one dark spirit
At a time.
at a time.
Well, in the beginning, so it was Ned only could be in there, or at least that was my understanding, and then he would leave in this other one. But Eblos was different because Eblos was like a combination of evil spirits combining self, but they weren't. So, okay, in our religion, we believe that premortally,
Yeah.
you have people that came down to the planet and became us, right? We're now who we were spiritually, we're now here. But there was a third of that never came down here and never got bodies. They were saying that would never happen, that there would only be somebody that had lived before, like a Ned who lived on the earth and the Sun Holy Spirit went in him. But they were saying, oh no, Satan's getting more trickier. His tactics are getting better and better. They kept saying that he'd get better and better. That was Chad's probably reasoning why things didn't work out the way he thought they always would. It was his way. That's how I started figuring Chad out. He'd say, oh, that didn't happen. Oh, well, it's because of that. It's always, oh, it's because of that. So now there's Eblos. Why wasn't Charles dying?
Mm-hmm.
They thought they had all these powers. Oh, they all would come up with another reason why he wasn't dying. Oh, now it's Eblos. Now it's all these combinations of they're getting smarter. So there's, and at least I remember Alex saying something about there was like 1,000 of them, or somebody said it. It's like 1,000 of them, or it felt like it.
Yeah.
So it was a combination of all these entities that never came to Earth. So they took over his body. So that's what they were saying.
Okay.
So
Alex specifically told you he was so strong during this fight
yeah.
that it felt like there was 1,000 spirits
Yeah.
in him.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
And Alex never disclosed to you that he was hit with a bat, just that he was in a fight?
No, I think he told me he was hit by a bat too. I think I remember both of them saying it. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember it not, it doesn't sound familiar.
How long were you supposed to stay there? And then you showed up on the 9th. Were you, and you spent the night?
It was just like going back up, because I didn't live far.
Okay.
So I'd go home, and then I remember sometimes trying to call her, and she's like, tonight's not a good night. So I think the total times that I've gone there.
But that night, you spent the night on the 9th, and the next morning you said she got up and said you need to leave.
Yeah.
Did you find that kind of surprising?
Yeah.
That she would.
Yeah.
Was it early? Was it what time?
Well, as soon as I walked out of my bedroom, I remember, it was 7, 8 in the morning, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't one to sleep in, so.
And she says that Charles and Charles.
It's coming down
Alan was
to,
coming
if I
down and
remember,
gonna
she
kill her.
said today. So if that was the 10th, it would have been the next day, right?
So it would have been the night, you spent the night there the 9th, and the 10th is when you woke up, and then the 11th is when you.
So then she must have said he was coming down tomorrow. Yeah. He's coming down tomorrow or today. I thought it was, she said
Okay.
today. But anyway, yeah, and I was like, why? That was when I was
Yeah.
like, why? Like, what reason can a normal person, like a policeman, say, this guy's coming down to kill me? Like, I didn't understand that. If you think he's evil, it's really, what is the reason? Like, how do you know these things?
Yeah.
So, it was a little off, definitely, for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did she ever mention calling the police or anything like that as far as she felt so threatened by him that she needed to do something? Or
She seemed like she was busy, like talking on the phone. She had trying. I just got this feeling she had a storm going on, and
did Alex ever say why he spent the night? Did he ever tell you why he spent the night?
I don't remember who said what, but I remember his point of staying there is to protect her, make sure she was safe.
Okay.
Something like that, like he was going to be with her. I knew that he was going to be there. I think she said, yeah, he's leaving. You need to leave. Alex is coming to spend the night, and he's going to protect me, something like, he's coming down. I really didn't think a lot about it, because when I didn't talk to her till however many days afterwards, and she calls me and she tells me what happened. So I'm like, what?
Right.
So I didn't expect any of that to happen. I thought, they'd work it out. They're not really going to try to kill her.
Right.
I didn't get, like I said, I didn't get into drama.
Yeah.
I was really
Yeah.
outside that drama circle, so I didn't really ever expect to hear that would happen. That was very surprising to me.
And then 4 days later, you talked with her again, and that's when she asked if you saw her.
Yeah, I think it was that many days. You probably know better than me. I don't remember. It just seemed like that many days.
Anything else that you can think of? Regarding zombies, regarding getting rid of people, it's specifically into the Charles.
I remember her saying things like, you know, Charles was a nice guy. I miss the old Charles, like, in there. She's like, I didn't even have a proper burial for him. Like, she didn't get to say goodbye. She was always being chased by these demons. She'd say stuff like that.
This was after his death.
I don't know, at some point. I don't know. I don't even know if it was after or before. It probably was before.
Okay.
You know, it's just like, he was a nice man, and she'd say nice things, kind of, but then she'd try to paint, it seems to me she'd just try to paint a story to be able to justify her reasons for leaving or whatever. And I encouraged her, I was like, why don't you get a divorce? And, you know, you probably heard that, me say that.
And why not?
Because, you know, they lose their exaltations. At least Chad would. I can't remember if she said she would, but he would.
Obviously, you made a comment earlier about the vibrations. Your vibrations increase every time you go to the temple, and your veil gets thinner, and you can teleport and all these different things, according to them.
According to them.
What do you think would have happened to her if she had her temple regimen taken away?
Then she wouldn't have been able to go to the temple anymore. She would have been sad about that, but I'm sure she would have kept on doing her crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Chad, whatever they really did, I don't really know.
Okay. Do you obviously think that was very important to her?
Mm-hmm.
Because she was going pretty much every day, is that my understanding?
She was. I mean, she, you know, I don't know how it went when she traveled and got all the praise. I don't know how often she went after that, but she went often.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning before she met Chad. It was like an everyday thing. I think after she got Chad, I think it started lessening up sometimes, but it was definitely on her priority list. Even when she went to Hawaii, she would fly over to the main island to go to the temple there.
How much of this, and this is just a personal question, nothing kind of proof of the case or anything, how much do you think of this was religious based as opposed to
money and sex?
Absolutely.
So those are some good questions. I think in the beginning it was religious. Okay, I think that their lofty ideas of who they thought they were and their gifts, and manipulations by the dark side too, because I know that things can be manipulated to think things are light when they're not. Okay, I know that's real. But I think when they met, it was kind of like they were like, oh, I know this, you know all this, kind of like, let me show you what I know kind of feeling.
Okay.
And then it got into the sex. And I think sex was the driving force behind the new theories he came up with, new doctrine that he came up with. I think that sex, and you know, a lot of people say it's money. I think the convenience of having the money was there so they could be together and do all their sexual things personally. I don't know how much, I think they just thought the idea of probably the money was there just so that they didn't have to work maybe, but I don't know. So in the beginning, I think it was religious.
Okay.
I do. And I just think it just, and I think this is really what I think. I thought a lot about this, as you can imagine. I didn't know she was a manipulator because I just met her. So I didn't, and I'd never been around manipulation before. That's a new concept to me.
Okay.
I've never seen that. I don't know how to do it myself. I don't get it. I don't get how it works. So when she was manipulating, and what's the other word? You know, lying or deceiving,
Sure.
manipulating. It was just something I wasn't aware of, or it was foreign to me. And so, anyway, as I came to understand, looking back like a few times, just a few times, I would think she would lie, like when she did the police thing, and then remember, this is a white lie, but little lies are a big deal to me. You do a little bit, you do a big to me. She'd say, oh, Melanie was going to come over, I told her I wasn't feeling well. And I'm like, but you are feeling well. Like, to me, I wouldn't make that up.
Right.
That's not my personality, to say, pretend to somebody I'm doing something when I'm not. That, to me, you should always just say how you feel. Anyway, so I thought, that's weird. Why was she, if she's such a great person, why would she make up a little lie like that?
Yeah.
So that's the only time I can remember any lies. I'm sure there was tons of them going on, but I didn't know it. I was like, no way she would make stuff up. She's too good of a person, because she was just so sweet and loving and kind in the beginning. I'm like, there's no way she's making this stuff up. But anyway, so I think this is what is interesting to me now, looking back. because of her manipulate and deception, she would find somebody that could manipulate, like he was manipulating, deceiving too. He tricked her, she tricked him. They tricked each other so well that they were their equal opposite evil match for each other.
Right.
Like they got exactly what they put out. You know, what you put out comes back to you. I think that's what they did for each other. And I think that's why they got in a mess, because if he would have done it with me or anybody else, would have been like, I'm not manipulating that, this is not going to work on me. But because she was that way too, I think that's why it worked.
In the time that you've known Chad, have you known him to have been in any other extramarital relationships other than?
I know his didn't feel like there was anything like that.
I did
going
hear a
on.
report on that she had claimed that something happened, but I don't know.
I don't know that that's true.
Okay.
I would not know that.
Okay.
I didn't. It sounded like that wasn't true when I heard it. I was like,
Okay.
yeah. So it didn't sound like something I would necessarily put him with. So.
Okay. Any talk? Well, obviously Tammy died in October. Did any talk? Did you weren't talking to Lori at that time then, right? Or did
In
you?
October?
Mm-hmm.
Not very much.
Okay. Did she ever mention anything to you about Tammy's death?
Yeah. Oh, I talked to the Attorney General all about Tammy.
Okay.
So that's all with them.
Okay, perfect. I'll let them handle that.
They 4 hours.
Okay. No.
Very nice people.
Yes. We're not 4 hour type people.
Yeah. You want to spend 4 more hours on that? I'm like, oh.
Well, honestly, you could go into this for days.
It hurts.
It does.
Like afterwards, you're kind of jangled. You're like, I knew these people. Like this is so, and everybody knows about me in the whole world.
Yeah.
I don't want everybody to know about me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh.
I work on it for a day and I'm jangled for a week. So it's.
You can imagine what I've gone through.
I know.
It has been a living hell, but
I don't
I'm
wanna
stronger.
imagine really. Yeah.
No, I'm very stronger because of it.
Yeah.
And there's many things I'm grateful that happened to me
Mhm.
and not somebody else,
Right.
because I got to experience something at a very high level that was deception.
Mhm.
That if I could consider my armor,
Yeah.
I had a weak link in this deception area. And now it's fortified. And now I know a lot more about deception. I'm grateful for that knowledge. I'm not grateful for what happened. I'm horrified that people died because of these crazies.
Yeah.
When somebody like Chad comes along and he seems so humble and sweet and kind, it's like, he looks like a typical Idaho boy, you know? You don't think that they're lying to you, because I don't get the lying, the deceiving. I don't understand that. And so I just thought he was who he was. And so I have really started to see the flags of deception now, like little things along the way. We're talking to God all the time. We're getting all these answers all the time. No, God does not work like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell you what to do. Every time you wake up, he gives you a list of things to do. And I thought, wow, they have better skills than me, because I don't really hear from God like that. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, he sees visions all the time. He's got it, and I don't even think he has visions. I think he's making all this stuff up. But I did, in that first interview I was talking about it, I look back and I'm like, I don't think I was accurate anymore. I think that I have come to observe more and realize, like, because, you know, I've become friends with a lot of people, and was a really a neat person I got to visit with. And she, you know, he wrote a book for her about her dreams and mostly about her near-death experience. When she was sharing that with him, he didn't disclose his. That's like if you and I were talking and I said, look, you tell me all about your near-death experience. I'm like, I'm going to tell you about mine.
Right.
He didn't do that.
You do it.
And so she's like, I think he took stuff from her and Julie and other people. I think he just kind of story writer.
Interesting.
And then he knew the scriptures. I believe he knew them really
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
And I think he just used
He
that.
did one. He was on a mission, right? I thought they had his partners.
Yeah, he was on a
some
mission.
news stories with.
Yeah, he was a missionary. Yeah, but I just think that he was really good at conning people, and I think he was good. I think he was a good writer as far as pretending and making. He said it was fiction, but he was taking other people's stuff and making it sound like he would say in the backdrop, you know, to his friends or people like me or Lori, like, well, you know, these are things I really saw, but I make it like a fiction.
Yeah.
So that would be his safeguard, I think, is saying, this is fiction, I didn't say this is real. That would be his safety net.
Back to the armor. You mentioned armor, and I've heard that term.
It was in the
my
scripture.
lifetime.
It's scriptural,
Yeah,
yeah.
your
Your armor
armor
of God.
of God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever reach out to Chad about maybe somebody you feeling vulnerable or needing a blessing or anything like that? Did you ever
Yeah,
reach
maybe
out?
I could have. I remember one time when my son was sick, and I said, "Do you think you could give him a blessing?"
Okay.
Something like that. And he said, "This was interesting. You're gonna,
Okay.
you'll be interested to hear of this." My son he was sick, and I was ministering to him like I always do, essential oils, or I do a lot of healthy things, put cold rags. I was
Okay.
very involved in helping my kids feel better. I did not do energy work, and because I didn't know how. Anyway, so I was doing my best as this mom knows how to.
Yeah.
So he slept through the night, and I was starting to feel better. He woke up, and he started to feel better, and then all of a sudden, the fever comes flying back on. You know that, when your kids do that? So anyway, I thought, I'm just going to see if Chad can help out, because I've heard he could do that to other people.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, he's got this fever. Do you think you can do something to help? Something, I don't know the words I used, probably said a blessing or something like that." I jump in the shower, come out, 10 minutes maybe, and it's completely better. And I'm like, "Hey," he didn't text back, I don't think. I just said, "Hey, feeling better." He goes, "Oh, I extracted this," how do you describe it? Extracted some entity or some dark something from him, virus.
Okay.
And I was like, "Well, whatever you did, he's better."
Yeah.
Now, we can push all of the ideas away. What I really think happens, and this is between you and me as a person, not as a police department, is that when you open dark doors, it gives you power to do things that are manipulating and deceiving, which mirrors things that look like they're healings.
Yeah.
And if you're given that power to put a virus on somebody, right, you could have the power to move that back off. Satan gave you that power to do that. And I think that's just how I did it. Because I know that he did that for other people. I think that was, I don't think I ever asked him to bless me personally, but I can't recall.
So a common thing, like I think you mentioned, I did see something else, maybe with a reference to Zulema. I removed this from you, and I've increased your
that sounds like
armor.
something he would say.
Okay.
Your spiritual armor, which would not be an unusual Christian term to use.
Correct.
Yeah.
Just to ward off any kind of negative or dark spirits or something, Okay.
Yeah. So he thought he had this power to do it. And Sulema would say, I remember her saying many times, "I don't know what he did, but all this darkness is off me now. I totally feel better." And so they dialogued more than I did, because she had all these things that I did not even have.
Okay.
So they would be on, and that's why I think it was harder for her to come out of this, is because I think that energy work got her sucked in, and I think that she really thought that was from God, and it wasn't.
Have you talked to Melanie Boudreaux since? Or did I ask you that?
No, you didn't ask me that. So I haven't. The last I tried to talk to her, "Hey, people aren't zombies. Brandon's not a zombie." That was back. I remember it was around Christmas time, right after I told the police everything. I talked to her that time, and she goes, "I can't talk. The phone's being bugged." So she wasn't free to say how she could really, we couldn't have a real conversation because there was no microphones. I encouraged her that it wasn't good. I encouraged her everything I could to what I had come to understand.
Okay.
And then she'd text me in the middle of the night, I don't know, it felt like weeks later maybe January, I don't remember.
Okay.
But anyway, and she's like, "Do you remember the name of a song?" By Laura Daigle. We love Laura Daigle. And when I couldn't remember, anyway, we ended up talking, and I just continued to try to counsel her, and she continued to, I can't really share much.
Yeah.
Then after that, I never spoke. Oh, did I speak to her on the phone? I can't recall speaking to her again, but I remember trying to text her "Hey, I'm praying for you. You want to talk?" I was trying to do my best to try to hold her. I was like, "Come on, don't you hope that you're not involved in anything?" I didn't know if she was. And she just was like, "I'm busy. Thank you for the prayer." Just short little answers. Then I saw her at the temple only once. I didn't talk to her, but I saw her, and it was Sulema, Summer, and her sitting on the couch. I walk into the celestial room. It's just a room where you sit down, and I go, first I saw her, I thought, "Oh, I can talk to her," and I saw Sulema there. I'm like, "Oh." And so Sulema was kind of facing down like that in the prayer, and then she kind of came up, and then I just turned and sat over here, around the corner. She didn't come to talk to me. I was bummed. I really wanted to talk to her. And then I just said, "Hey, I saw you at the temple," and anyway, so there's been really nothing. So yeah, I think that was maybe the last text or two, and
I have not tried to contact her now that she's made statements about her belief structure.
Yeah.
I just decided
Move
that
on.
I just don't think there's a place for me right now with her life, so.
Did she ever come over on the night you spent the night at Lori's on the 9th? Did she come over?
I don't remember. I
Okay.
don't remember seeing her. She could, she couldn't have. I mean, if she did, it was quick. I
Okay.
don't know. I just don't remember details like that, like people coming in and out,
And
unless
then
it's
Where
specifically.
did you sleep when you were at Lori's that night?
So, okay, there's the back. So if you go to the kitchen, you
Mhm.
take on the right.
Mhm.
There's a JJ's bed in that bedroom, and then
Okay.
there's a bigger bedroom back here. And I think Tyler's was on this side.
Okay.
I'd have been in that back one.
The pink room?
I know it had some crazy stuff on the
The
wall.
mattress on the floor?
Yep, mattress on the floor, just a big queen size.
Okay.
And it seemed like she might have had another one at one point, but anyway, there was a queen one, and
Was there food storage in that room? Do you remember if it was?
yeah, a little,
closet?
in the closet, there was
Yeah.
a little bit,
Okay.
but yeah, there wasn't, other than the bed.
Okay.
I think it was, yeah, that's the room I spent the night. I think I only spent the night, I want to say it felt like about 3 times.
Okay. But
It could've been
next
a
morning, the
little-
10th, she says you need to go.
And Alex was not there on the 9th when you were there.
No, I'm trying to see when he was, if I ever, I know I've seen him over there before, but I don't remember when it was. I don't remember him. I think I was gone for if he came over. I think I was gone. I didn't see him. I'm just trying to remember when I did see him. Oh, my brain hurts.
I know it.
I'm trying so my memory is not the sharpest always, and so I'm
It's
trying
pretty good.
so.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying, and some things leave an imprint because it's so bad.
Right.
You know, it's like I don't want to remember that.
You gotta remember, we're asking you questions,
Right.
what might have been just like mundane stuff.
I know.
And we're asking you to remember because it now is,
Exactly.
it might be important.
Exactly. I am here to help wherever I can.
Awesome. Well, I got your number, and if I think of anything else, I'll probably just call you, and it's best, over the phone.
Yeah.
And make you come back in here.
Yeah, if I'm just.
Likewise,
trying to
if you think of something else that,
You know, one thing that I did think that was important, that recording that I did. I said, why would Alex say this? You know, I don't know where the, how did I say it? I don't want to know where the kids are,
Mhm.
and then they won't be able to be found. That won't be able, I just kind of combined it, but that was from Sulema, that information was, that particular strip. I just threw into one when I was speaking to her, because
Okay.
they both came from either me or her, but anyway, I don't know why Alex would say that. I didn't even want him to know. Remember, that's what she said, I didn't even want him to know. And he doesn't even know where the kids are. I think she said something like, well, however I said it.
Yeah.
So to me, that says we can't blame Alex. If you're an attorney, she can't put that on Alex when she says we didn't even want Alex to know. So if they're going to try to put the blame on him,
Yeah.
that I think that part of the recording is helpful.
Okay.
Would you agree?
And in regards to the kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it could be helpful to be used against her, personally.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I know there's a lot of evidence. I know that we have not rolled out the rug yet because you guys know so much more than I do, even though I know the weirder kind of the definitions to what you're reading about.
You help us to corroborate the weirdness.
You have the Rosetta Stone for us.
Yeah, well, someday the police and I are all going to get together and have a powwow. It's all said and done. It's been a hellish year, but it's been great learning for me. And I'll just say that I'm grateful that if anybody had to go through it, I'm glad it was me and not somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of that. The reason why I was involved, I would say, is because I am very trusting.
Mhm.
That's my weakness.
Well, I've come across a couple people like that.
Yeah, just so trusting.
That are just trusting, and I
Yeah.
hate to use the word naive.
But there's some gullibility there with trusting
Yeah,
too much.
absolutely. And,
You
you
don't
know,
have a tough skin in that area
Yes,
yet.
one lady that I've spoken with was like, I trust everybody. I'm a huggy person. I trust everybody. There's good in everybody.
And there is good in everybody.
Well, especially when you're dealing with religion.
Yeah.
If you're talking at a level of religion and Christianity, you do have that trust. And to me, there's really no difference in, I mean, look at some of the scandals involving, priests, bishops,
yeah.
anybody in that high level of authority.
You can be manipulated.
Absolutely.
One of the definitions that I read in the Bible dictionary I thought was fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It was under the title devil.
and it said, because I'm researching a lot of stuff right now. It's been very interesting. My own little research going on, and it says one of Satan's greatest tricks is to convince, I don't know if that's the right word, people that they are following God when they're not.
Mhm.
And you think about all the other religions, and I'll just say in general people, how many people have killed people in the name of religion? Gone in and raped people, villages, right, in the name of God.
Wars
That
are
is
based
one
off of religion.
You what? Yeah, wars are part of religion. So this is just a version of thinking that these great people, and they still do because they're not remorseful yet at all. They're still in this cloud, and I'm hoping that that bubble is going to pop one day. And I never want to speak to them until that bubble pops and go, "Hey, do you know how much he deceived you? You killed your kids, girl, or he killed them, or Alex killed them, or something." But she's involved. I feel like all three of them were involved, and I'm just. Did you? You needed some serious prayers, girl. You need some help. Like, it's gonna be a rude awakening.
You
that
hope.
day.
You
You
hope.
hope she gets that before she
You
dies
hope.
someday. You
Yes,
hope that she
you
gets
hope.
to that point. I'm hoping that
Yeah.
she will have that before she passes on. You're really
Yeah.
tall, but your sister's pretty tall.
Yeah.
Detective Coates?